of it, and particularly of these two guys, just how ridiculously sort of blinkered they were in their support of Nixon and their own self-importance, really. That I think. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is James, joined as ever by my friend Steve, and this episode we are talking about the HBO series White House Plumbers.
Hey, but you know the drill. If you haven't already subscribed, be a great favor to us. And just as a reminder, Deep Dive Movie Reviews does contain spoilers, so you've been warned. James?
Yeah, okay, so this is new HBO miniseries, 5 episodes, all directed, I believe, by David Mandel, who has a background in Veep, the Amanda Iannucci show with Julie Louis-Dreyfus, and it stars Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux as the two guys spearheading the Watergate break-in of the Democratic National Convention offices, which led to ultimately the resignation of Richard Nixon. So what I thought I would do, Steve, is I thought I'm going to hand this one over to you as our resident American, and because I assume that you know a little bit more. Yeah, well, exactly. I assumed you knew a little bit more about the history and the background of this than me.
And James, because we're going all the way back to 1971, 72, I thought I'd get up to speed with the culture of that day and make myself a cocktail. I was feeling all Mad Men. You know, this miniseries, I don't know if you noticed, but the intro jingle was very Mad Men-ish. I mean, I was loving that jingle. Every time a new episode would start, I'm like, oh yeah, pour myself a drink.
Well, right from the HBO logo at the start, did you see that was sort of
kind of retro, very retro.
70s. I don't think HBO was around in the 70s, was it? But it was an homage to the network logos of that time. It was a nice touch.
Yeah, as an American of 56 years old, I grew up in the specter of Watergate. I remember from earliest ages, mom and dad talking about that bastard Nixon and everything that came out of Watergate. I mean, Watergate so impacted the zeitgeist of America that subsequently almost every scandal after it has the suffix "gate" attached to it. I mean, that's how much this just impacted the American psyche. But yeah, G. Gordon Liddy, E. Howard Hunt, the main instigators here. Obviously, you had John Dean, you had Chuck Colson. There was a whole slew of folk, that high-ranking political aficionados who went to jail because of this blunder. This particular, I mean, there's been a lot of cinema, documentary. It's been ad nauseum, the retelling of the Watergate story. And obviously, this is built around the 2007 book by Gil Crow. And this representation has a real parody satire bent to it, James. I don't know how you resonated with that.
Yeah, no, it was funny because when I saw the announcement of the show, I did not expect that it would be sort of satirical, comedic, not tongue in cheek, but have a lightness and absurd sort of angle to it, which I think was actually a very welcome element to the story, because going in, or rather ahead of the trailer coming out. I'm going to say that again. Or rather ahead of the trailer coming out, which is when it really revealed what the tone was going to be. I thought, okay, this will be probably, fairly entertaining, but it could be quite hard work. It could be quite heavy. Right. And then you get the trailer and you realize, oh, okay, they are, ratcheting up the absurdity of it.
Somebody needs to clean this mess up. You want us to break in a fourth time? Wait, what do you mean a fourth time? Nothing. Spy talk.
Of it, and particularly of these two guys, just how ridiculously sort of blinkered they were in their support of Nixon and their own self-importance, really. That I think that really helped. Because we have seen a lot of this. We have seen a lot of films dealing with this, and it's a heavy topic. So this was a way to just help help it go down a lot smoother, I thought.
I really wanted to love this. I mean, it's got Woody Harrelson in it. I love Woody Harrelson. I love politics. When I heard it was going to be a little satirical, a little on the absurd, I thought, oh, this could play really well. This could be kind of an Ocean's 11 rendition of, the Watergate scandal. And if I'm honest, though, what I found was these characters are real life characters. I mean, Howard Hunt and G. Gordon Liddy were real people. And I know enough about them. I don't pretend to be an expert on Watergate or these guys, but I knew enough about them growing up that one of the things I struggled with is, in the great words of Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid, who dispenses
who you love to quote
yes,
as often as possible.
Dispenses that wisdom, and I've shared this before, is like you almost got to choose what side of the road you're going to go down. You either really go into the absurd, the satirical, and really play it, or you go really serious. But if you kind of do a little of both, I never quite got the feel like I could really latch onto these characters. And it ended up making them, at least for the first, I'd say 3.5 episodes, very one-dimensional. I mean, these were smart guys who were, I mean, they might have made dumb decisions, but they were sometimes played as like Dumb and Dumber. And that probably, which is fine if you're making Dumb and Dumber. But if you're kind of telling a historical story, there's elements of this that didn't play out well for me. When we finally got into the second half of, say, episode 4 and into episode 5, I started to see the character's depth start to be fleshed out, to present itself. And I started to enjoy the characters more than I did in the first 3 episodes.
I definitely agree that the show started slowly. I watched the first 2 episodes back to back, and I came away thinking, okay, that could have been 1 episode. You know, and I hoped, I wasn't as familiar with the, all the little twists and turns of the story, but I hoped that the pace was going to pick up. And actually, after those first 2 episodes, I was quite kind of okay with the pace, because there was enough of the story sort of as yet unexplored to keep me kind of going. I got to admit, I mean, as I may have suggested already, I kind of liked that tone to it, and I didn't really have a problem with how absurd and ridiculous the characters are, because well, the evidence put forward is that they were kind of ridiculous, that they were the fall guys, and you understand why the White House was willing to entrust them with this job, is because they were the perfect patsies, as their children tell them repeatedly. So I think for me that helped, and Justin Theroux particularly, I thought was gloriously ridiculous as Liddy, just because I think it's the only way that we could have handled a 5-episode series about that character, because he has some really strange and dark sides to his character, not least the fact that he's this massive sort of Nazi and Hitler sort of fanboy, really. And you're kind of like, well, if you want me to go along with this guy for 5 hours, I need an entry point, and the entry point was that he was so just ridiculous.
The delivery of Justin Theroux's, the cadence and of his vocals was almost mesmerizing to listen to. The way he delivered his lines, you're thinking this is a really unique character. Whereas I really thought, because I like Woody Harrelson, I was going to be more drawn to the Woody Harrelson character. Actually, I found myself, and it sounds like you were as well, much more drawn to the Justin Theroux character, the G. Gordon Liddy.
Very much so. Similarly, I thought this is Woody Harrelson and another guy in this show, but for me, I came away going, oh, this was Justin Theroux and Woody Harrelson. I mean, I think Howard Hunt is a slightly more sort of stubborn, curmudgeonly character. There's something about the sort of the flamboyant absurdity of Liddy that just makes him, go back to what I was saying, it just makes him more likable, despite the fact that some of his more horrendous character traits.
And that's why he had a fairly popular talk show for years after this. Once he got out of prison, he was on a talk show that ran for, I want to say, at least 10 years. G. Gordon Liddy show, something like that. And I remember listening to it a handful of times. I wasn't a big fan by and large, but again, I'm somewhat familiar with Liddy's story.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't know anything about him other than that he was part of this, and that it says in the end scroll of this show that he was on Miami Vice once. But other than that, no.
Well, just to double back to something you raised earlier about the patsy element of them and how they are used by the higher ups, I couldn't help but see the parallels between what happened with Trump January 6th and some of his supporters vis-a-vis some of the support that Nixon and the administration was trying to get out of these guys. And that I need people who are going to do my dirty work for me, but I need to keep enough distance between us and them. And I need to play on their patriotism, their fear of the liberals, their fear of the Democrats. And that element kept coming through, you know, Harrelson and Howard Hunt's character and G. Gordon Liddy. You know, they saw themselves as patriots, and the country is being taken over by these zealous liberals and these Democrats that are, you know, out to destroy everything that we hold dear. And the echoes of what we're hearing in 2023 and what we heard in the 2016 election with Trump really were getting really started back during this Watergate time. Like that spirit was starting to gestate, and you could really draw the parallels between then and now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what I saw here was, you know, a failed CIA agent and a failed FBI agent who had been given a second chance, you know, who had never really found the success in their careers first time round. And it was sold to them like, you know, the president needs you. Your country needs you. This is the future of the country. You know, the pinkos are taking control, and and this is the only way that we can save the country is by getting the president reelected. Even though you know increasingly most of the country realizes that he's ridiculous. I empathized with them. Well, not empathized, but I understood them, and I understood where they were coming from. You know, that they just wanted to fulfill their political destiny, if you want.
No, they're not bad guys, and the reality is they shouldn't. They deserve the time in prison that they got, but they're not the kind of people that deserved 20, 40 years in prison. You know, they got their 3 or 4 years, and then they were out, and because they're not evil guys.
They're not evil, certainly. I mean, they got what they deserved to some degree.
Deserved,
I mean,
yeah.
They were idiots, and they were exploited, and they knowingly broke the law in order to, you know, circumvent democracy. So in that regard,
sounds familiar. That sounds familiar.
Exactly. So I think they totally deserved what they got. But but these 40-year, 35-year prison sentences were that was like cracking a walnut with a sledgehammer. Well, you know, and they didn't serve anything like that. They only ended up serving a couple of years. So, but it was just this idea that
Carter commuted their sentences.
Commuted Liddy, and because Liddy refused to testify, whereas Hunt ultimately agreed to testify on behalf of the prosecution, and so he got sort of sent to minimum security for that reason. But the fact that they went through, because they thought they were patriots, and even after they had been caught, they thought, well, we're going to get pardoned. All we need to there's this mantra throughout the entire show, which is just wait till after the election. You know, wait till after the election when Nixon is back in power, and he will pardon. And he did win the election, and guess what? He didn't pardon them. He had no interest in pardoning them whatsoever.
Which draws again the parallels to today. It's that conspiracy mindset of they concoct this reality that's outside of the norms, and in their reality they were totally convinced that and the president were like this, and they're doing this for the president, and as soon as the president is able, he'll pardon them. But a blind man could see that they were just being used. Absolutely.
And even their families pointed out, and that's one of the elements of the story I really, really liked, was the way that the whole way through they're coming home at night every night, and their family are just kind of like, what are you doing? And particularly Hunt's children. You know, Liddy's children are sort of younger, and they're not really as vocal, and his wife is far more supportive. Whereas Hunt's family, he's got these older sort of university age children who are obviously very left leaning, reactionary, and one of them is called Kevin. One of his daughters is called Kevin, which I thought was kind of funny. You know, particularly his older children are just saying, so what are you doing? And they keep asking all these rational questions, like, has Nixon actually told you this? And have you met the president yet? And every step of the way, he's just like, oh, shush, you don't understand, understand. And he ends up getting them embroiled in it as well. But I thought that from a narrative point of view, that counterbalance worked really, really well. It gave you, it showed you sort of the other side, and that's where they really had to put up sort of a defense, if you like, and justify what they were doing. And that's where you could see sort of the ridiculousness of their perspective, because obviously when Liddy and Hunt are together, and when they've got the Cubans and their little cadre of burglars with them, it's like an echo chamber, and they're all sort of just encouraging each other. But when they get home is when he suddenly is out of his comfort zone. You realize that he's that what he's doing is demonstrably wrong. And when he, that's where he is sort of under attack, if you like, and outnumbered. And I thought those scenes were great, and particularly Lena Headey as his wife.
Cersei from Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah. I just suddenly couldn't remember how you pronounced her name, probably, but yeah, Lena Headey is she was great, because she was sort of the former that they met on a mission kind of thing. The former CIA agent who then who then decided to sort of stay home, and she understands what he's doing in a way that I think Judy Greer, Liddy's wife, doesn't. She was far more willing to sort of go along with him, whereas Lena Headey's kind of like, wait, really? What? Okay.
Yeah, Judy Greer plays that clueless character really well. She's done it in a few other roles, and she did it well here. Coming back to what you mentioned too about even though it's only 5 episodes, and my first thought was, oh great, we're going to review a series, only 5 episodes. But like you, the first couple really dragged, and I've been kind of communicating a like for this show that I'm probably misrepresenting, because there's a lot of elements in the show I didn't like, and it didn't work for me. And the first couple episodes, like you said, were slow. Although it was interesting to see that Dita Beard. Did you see who was playing Dita Beard? Did you see who that was?
Oh, was it Kathleen Turner? Wasn't it?
Kathleen Turner. Yeah. That was Kathleen Turner. That really threw me. Unfortunately, that whole story arc was fairly boring.
Yeah,
but it was interesting to see Kathleen Turner again. And she's looking a little different these days.
Yeah, no, I didn't recognize her on screen, and I kind of like was scanning through the cast afterwards. I was like, wait, what? That was her? Okay, fine. Yeah. But yeah, no, I totally agree. That was I think the period in the story where I was kind of like, I felt it was spinning its wheels somewhat. And
a lot of the humor didn't land. There was some humor that landed. A lot of humor. It wasn't funny enough in this. They made a lot of attempts at humor that I thought were like, it kind of misfired. And so there was, for me, this whole show was like an engine that was misfiring. Like, we're moving forward. There's moments of power. There's moments of acceleration, but then you get a big bang and you kind of lose the acceleration again. And that's where I found with particularly the first 3.5 episodes, it was like the boom, boom. It was only finally once they got caught that I thought the story got really interesting, and how they dealt with how they're going to cover it up initially, and then the trial, and subsequently. I found the dialogue sometimes a little clunky, but I thought when Justin Theroux and Woody Harrelson are having some real honest conversations when they're in prison, I thought that was one of the highlights of the show.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly ends strong. And it certainly starts off a little sort of meandering. I guess they wanted to get as much backstory in as possible. I didn't find much of a problem with the dialogue, to be honest. I think I was kind of, I was welcoming any humor that they wanted to inject into it in what is otherwise not a funny topic, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know the story well enough to know when they're veering off topic until it's too late, if you know what I mean, and when they're sort of going down a narrative cul-de-sac until after the fact, and by that time they've moved on, and so I'm not that bothered. Most of my knowledge of Watergate comes from other movies like All the President's Men and Nixon and Mark Felt and things like that. So I was willing to kind of sort of put my fate in their hands to a certain degree, probably more than I would have done if this was a movie. I'm
probably unfairly comparing this to a show that I watched this week that I really, really liked, and that's The Diplomat. And I wanted to review that, but you haven't seen it yet. But the dialogue in that was so tight, so assuming that your audience is intelligent. You're not spoon-feeding information. It was just boom, boom, really strong political drama, in my opinion. And I was watching it at the same time I was watching episodes of White House Plumbers. And the comparison of the two, I was really noticing I'm really liking the dialogue in this show. White House Plumbers, it wasn't horrible, but it suffered by comparison.
Okay. That's fair enough. I mean, I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen The Diplomat, but so I can't really compare the two. But yeah, what I did enjoy about this was the cast by and large. I mean, I've talked about Justin Theroux already, and Woody Harrelson is always good value, but the cast is so deep, and pretty much everybody that shows up was great fun. You got even characters like towards the end, you got like F. Murray Abraham, who I know we're not supposed to like anymore. It turns up as the
why? I don't know this one. Why?
Oh, he just got kicked off a show last week or something because he's he's basically being an old lovey to young people who aren't equipped to cope with it. So F. Murray Abraham shows up. Peter Serafinowicz turns up for like one moment towards the end where he tries to take the children out of the house. And throughout, I thought the cast was uniformly strong, actually. Whether it's sort of the more overtly comedic characters or whether the sort of quote unquote serious ones, and that, I think that really helped to sort of keep the whole thing moving along at a steady tick.
Well, James, we're going to need an instrument of measurement for reviewing and grading White House Plumbers. What should be our tool of measurement here?
I was thinking of a lot of stuff, about sort of secret documents and all that kind of stuff, and the wrong tools to break in or whatever. But I thought at the end of the day,
how many entries into the Watergate? I thought
how many entries into Watergate?
That it was,
it was 5 in the end, wasn't it? I think 5 times.
I think it was.
Or just failed entries to the Watergate. I think that works. Okay. Failed break-ins.
Yeah.
How many failed break-ins?
James, how many failed break-ins to the Watergate Hotel are you going to give White House Plumbers?
Okay, well, as I said, by and large, I enjoyed it. I felt that I was learning something along the way, but not being lectured to. It was entertaining. It did take a while to get going, but I felt that the characterizations that were being drawn and portrayed on screen were strong enough and compelling enough and absurd and funny enough to keep me going, even when it did go down these sort of little narrative dead ends along the way, as we've talked about. It wasn't great. It wasn't sort of reinventing the wheel or any kind of masterpiece, and I don't obviously think it's up there with some of the films that I've mentioned as well. But it was rock solid. It was rock solid. And I think I kind of probably enjoyed it a little bit more than you did. But I'm going to give it a nice rock solid 3 failed break-ins out of 5.
Yeah, I didn't quite like it that much. I enjoyed elements of it, as I said, but I thought the characters overall, especially the first 3 episodes, a little too satirical and one-dimensional. And it didn't work for me in a number of elements. I thought the dialogue was a little stilted at times. If I had to grade the episodes, I would say like the first 3 episodes, I'd give like a 1.5. Oof. And the last 2, I would give like a 3.5. But I'm going to round this out. I'm just going to give a solid 2. 2 failed break-ins into the Watergate Hotel. I think they could have done better with this. My expectations were higher. They weren't reached. Well, that's James and I's opinion of White House Plumbers. But what about you? Do you have any experience? What's your age? Are you American? Is this something you're familiar with? Or are you the younger generation? This is all new to you. We'd love to hear what you had to say in the comments box below. James?
Absolutely. As you said, is this a period of history that you are familiar with? If so, which is your favorite retelling of this story? And also, I haven't seen a ton of stuff that Justin Theroux is in. So if you are a Justin Theroux fan, I think after this, perhaps more people will be. It really does shine a spotlight on him, that he's no longer the other guy. Let us know. What should I be watching to enjoy more Justin Theroux going forward?
And that's James and I. Until next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures all